And what I wanted to start with today was just a quick overview of the Autodesk Construction Cloud for anyone that's on the call here today that isn't aware of what it is, where it comes from, what its goals are, and maybe some of its uses. And then we'll jump into two really great features that I think are worth talking about in terms of the latest updates. So the Autodesk Construction Cloud was born probably about 10 years ago now, and it started out with BIM 360 Glue and BIM 360 Field. Glue being a tool utilized for running coordination, so identifying clashes in a model environment. And then Field was really built around field processes, managing checklists, punch lists, assets in the field. Over time, Autodesk has kind of evolved it. They've had a number of different software acquisitions, and the intent of it and the goal of the Autodesk Construction Cloud is to go here, like you see on the screen, from the very beginning in the design phase of a project all the way through to completion of the construction project into operations and maintenance. So along the way, whether you're designing, planning, building, or operating the building, there are a number of different tools that can help with various processes. So let's talk about what those tools are. The first tool, and probably the most important tool in understanding the Autodesk Construction Cloud, is Autodesk Docs. And Docs is the foundational kind of underlying element of where all the information resides. If you start to leverage tools in the planning phase, in the building phase, in the operations phase, even in the design phase, you're likely gathering information that sits on Docs. So Docs is a document control repository. Autodesk calls it a common data environment, where you can build out a folder structure. You can replicate any folder structure that you might already have. You can host a number of different file types here, from your typical Revit files, RVT files, Navisworks files, IFC files, so everything associated with design, through to PDFs, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. All of those can be stored, visualized here, edited here, photos. The list goes on and on. I want to say now it's up to almost 100 file format types that can be supported and visualized, viewed right within the viewer. We've got that model viewer up there on the screen, just showing you that you can visualize a model, but you can view almost 100 different file format types, and that list continues to grow. If it's not one of those supported file formats, it can still be stored there, which is great for anyone that's looking for a cloud storage solution. Autodesk Docs comes with unlimited data storage, which is kind of unheard of now in the cloud environment. Everyone's trying to get some revenue based on how much data you're storing in their cloud. Here in Docs, you can throw anything and everything up there. If it's not one of those supported file formats, the process then is just to download it, open it in its appropriate application, make any necessary changes, and then re-upload those changes so that it's still stored. And even if it's not a supported file format, it'll still control the versioning. So document versioning is really important here, especially as we talk about the models and the sheets in PDF format, because what it allows us to do is go back in time and look at how the project has progressed. We can also see and compare any previous version to, say, the latest and greatest. With a PDF, it's pretty simple. It's going to be a red-blue overlay, and then everything that's purple is the same. Everything that's red or blue, those are the different changes. Pretty straightforward. There's a number of tools that do that, but where it gets really impactful is when we start looking at the model. You do a model comparison. It essentially generates a report for you of everything that has been added, everything that's been removed, and everything that's been modified, all the way down to the property information. You can filter that list, you can sort it, you can do a number of different things to get to the information that you need as you're tracking the changes over the course of your project. The other thing within Docs is that document approval process. So what that allows you to do is work as a collaborative team, say internally, as an example. Work internally, everyone's creating markups, maybe issues on documents or within models, and then at an appropriate time, maybe we want to make that information available to a larger team, to maybe some subcontractors or consultants that we're working with. Through a review process that's set up on a project-by-project basis, you can go through a workflow of different specific users approving or rejecting information to be shared. And then from there, there's a full transmittal solution within Docs that allows you to notify the appropriate parties. Users also have the ability to subscribe to specific folders or subfolders. That way, if there's information that they need to be abreast of immediately, they'll get a notification anytime something is updated within that folder structure. So it's a really, really powerful tool. If not for anything else, the model viewer is in and of itself very powerful. You can navigate the model. You can slice it. In this screenshot here, you can see we've got it sliced by levels. You can bring up property information. We're looking at that window. You can go into a number of different views to get inside of the model. You can do measurements. Really powerful just from a visualization perspective. So that's the foundational tool. Now let's talk about kind of going along the various project phases and where the different tools might fit in. When we're talking about construction, Building Connected is going to be that tool that really kicks everything off. It's going to be where you can see any projects that are going out to bid. It's where you can manage some of your contacts and project information associated with anything that is going out to bid or you're bidding into. You can submit bids, you can do bid leveling. So it's really kind of the initiation, if you will, of the construction process. So as we start to transition, let's say we've identified a project, maybe we've even won the project in Building Connected, and now we're on the project team and we're looking to start to run coordination efforts. We want to make sure that what we've got modeled is going to be what we're able to put in place and fabricate, install, etc. So with BIM Collaborate, what it allows users to do, especially users that are not model savvy, that maybe don't have licenses of Revit or Navisworks, it allows them to take in those Revit models, those Navisworks models, and very easily and seamlessly run clash detection on them. So they can see anytime, in this case, we're looking at a pipe running through a duct, we can see exactly where it is in the model. We can identify with the appropriate parties where it needs to be moved potentially. We can create issues as well as RFIs associated with those clashes. And the beauty of the issues within model coordination is, let's say you're working in a collaborative environment or contractor, you're working with the architect or vice versa. You have the ability to create that issue in model coordination, and then the design team can actually see that issue within Revit or Navisworks. So they can very easily click on that, navigate to where it is in the model in the design tool, make the appropriate changes to, shift that pipe up and out to the right over that 90-degree bend there, get it out of the way, clear that as an issue, re-upload or synchronize the latest version of the model then. And because it's automatically running the clash detection, it's really just going to eliminate that from your list of to-do, if you will. Then you can respond in the issue and say, hey, I've addressed this. We can go ahead and close this out. The contracting team then can identify that the change has been made and appropriately close it and archive it. So really seamless information flow between the design team and the contracting team. Now let's talk about Assemble. So we've gotten our models, maybe we've run coordination and everything's looking great. Now with Assemble, you have the ability to do different design reviews, so you can ensure that all those clashes were taken care of. You can do things like constructability reviews. Earlier on, if we were talking around kind of building connected process, you have the ability to estimate off of Assemble, so you can take all of the quantities, you can add formulas in there. There's a lot of configuration that you can do within the system to build it out to help get you to the estimate that you need based on the model information. Down the road, as you start to look as the project progresses, obviously with the change management, you can identify, similar to docs, any of the changes in the model between different versions, but it also has an aspect of incorporating scheduling and work in place tracking. So you can see exactly what is scheduled to be on site, what is finished, what is ready for commissioning, what has been completely closed out. And so you can get this really cool visualization of the model in all these different color coordinated aspects related to their status. And you can very easily identify, okay, maybe we're entirely done with the first floor at this point. Everything's green, everything's closed out, and now we're moving on to the second floor. Really good way to just track that progress as the project continues. Along those same lines, we talked about the 3D model Takeoff. Autodesk has it's probably their newest tool called Autodesk Takeoff. And really this is a way to supplement some of those assemble processes and also leverage 2D takeoffs. So the models that we're getting from Revit, they have the sheets associated with them, and the system will automatically extract those sheets for you. So not only do you get the model information, but you get all the associated sheets based on the published settings. So for all of the architects and engineers that are on the call, maybe you don't want some of the views that you've created in Revit to be visualized here. If you go into your published settings, you have the ability to adjust that. So you can say what is going to be visual to the contractor team, what won't be. Then from there, they can take that 2D information, do a takeoff. You can see there in that screenshot, we're gathering some square footage information. And right now, this takeoff tool really is, and you can see even in the model view, is an inventory. It's simply going to present the data back to you. You're not going to be able to do some of those configurations like you could in Assemble with calculations. It's just going to be quantities, essentially, numerical values. And then you have to take that, whether it's back into Assemble or Autodesk's latest tool that hasn't been incorporated yet into the Construction Cloud, but will be soon, ProEst, to build out a true estimate where you can tie those quantities to whether it's dollar amounts, labor codes, you name it, it can do it across the board. But Takeoff right now is the foundation of getting the information from the 2D and 3D documents and quantifying it. So moving on then, we've got the project, we've been awarded, we've done all the estimates, we're on site effectively, right? That's where Autodesk Build really takes hold. So Autodesk Build is a full project management solution. It starts with things like issues and RFIs. So an issue can be something that might be in RFI, might not be, might just be design information. It's pretty much anything and everything on a project. It's nothing that is formalized, but it's information that needs to be recorded as a potential problem. Then those issues can be wrapped into or rolled into an RFI, which obviously follows a formal process. There's a full workflow around it in terms of what users need to be involved at what stages. There's the ability to tie RFIs to a cost implication and then get them closed out and have kind of that full record keeping of what the RFIs were and their subsequent results. If there was an ASI as a result, if there are any changes in the contract documents, et cetera, that can all be tied to the RFIs. It also encompasses submittals. So it'll manage the entire submittal list of information that needs to be provided for what was actually installed. Architects and engineers on the phone, you'll probably love that because it can help with construction administration. You can ensure that your design intent is being followed and what you spec is actually being put in place on the job site. In terms of quality management, there is the ability to create really endless possibilities as it relates to checklists. So it could be punch lists, it can be forms, it can be anything you really want inside of the checklists, inside of quality management, as well as safety management. Everything related to safety. Do you have proper PPE? Do you have the appropriate credentials for having taken certain classes, OSHA requirements, et cetera, can all be encompassed into the forms and checklists. And then down in the bottom left there, we've got cost management. So that is a really, really powerful tool for project costing. It's not going to do things like your back of house accounting is going to do in terms of looking at invoices, cutting POs, all of that, but it's going to manage your budget for your project. It's going to manage all of your costs, your expenses for the project, and it has a change management workflow that can move things from a potential change order all the way through to an approved owner change order and subsequent supplier change orders for any pricing adjustments. Allows you to look at the variance from your initial project bid and estimate all the way through to completion, identifying how your project is performing. All along the way, you can forecast so that you can manage your cash flow appropriately. And as we show here, and we've kind of shown it and alluded to it in all the other slides, document management is still foundational. So as we're doing things like creating an RFI on a sheet or a model, you're doing it on the information that sits in Docs. So whether a user has access to Build or any of the other tools that we've talked about, they still have kind of the underlying same information. We're all working off the same common data environment so that everyone's on the correct page. So moving ahead, we talked about submittals. And when you're just using Build on its own, you have the ability to import from some spreadsheets and streamline it a little bit, but for the most part, it's kind of a manual process. Autodesk acquired Pipe, and Pipe is a great way to automate the submittal process. What it allows users to do is simply upload the sheet and the spec, and it'll automatically read that information and create all of the submittal information that's required. It'll track as those progress really seamlessly and easily in terms of who's assigned what their due dates are, what has been submitted, where they're at in the process, which Build can kind of do on its own. But where it gets really impactful is when you're doing closeout and handover. It's going to collect all that information. It's going to have it stored in one singular location, and it's going to make it very easy for the reviewers and ultimately the approvers to hand it over to the ownership entity. So really, really great tool. Can't say enough about it. I think that this being incorporated into Autodesk Build more fluidly is going to be a really great thing. Note here as well that Pipe, for anyone that's on the call that's like, hey, I'm a Procore user and maybe I'm looking at Build to see if it might be an alternative solution. Even if it's not, Pipe ties to Procore, it ties to a number of different solutions out there. So worth checking out because it can help you save a ton of time on your projects regardless of what project management solution you're utilizing. So let's get into some of the latest and greatest. My favorite and what I'm probably most excited about is Autodesk Bridge. Ultimately, what Bridge does is it will connect data between projects on the Autodesk Construction Cloud environment. Right now, it is limited to documents, and I'll go in and I'll show you how we do this. But not only between projects, it'll do it between accounts, so different projects on different accounts. So what we hear often is, hey, the GC is using Autodesk Build, maybe we're the architect, and we want to be involved in a lot of their workflow, but we also need our own record of everything that's happening on the job. We can't entirely rely on the GC's Build account because at the end of the project, they can remove us from the user list, or at any point in time, really, they can remove us from the user list, and we no longer have access. There's a risk associated with that, especially as you start looking at things like litigation, you want to have your own record of virtually all the same information that's happening on the project. We need to have our own system that's recording things, whether it's early on in the design phase, throughout construction administration, et cetera. So what Bridge allows us to do now is seamlessly connect between those different accounts. So the GC could have their account, the architect could have their account, all the subs could have their own accounts. And within that, then Bridge will allow you to work off of that same information. Like we talked about Docs having the common data environment, we can synchronize the documents across all those projects. So if the architect goes in, updates the documents in their own environment, it can push that information to the GC, to all the subs as required. And it's all permission-based, right? And it's all user configured, so it's not going to be every document. I don't want you to think, hey, anytime we upload something, I don't want the GC getting access to it. It's only the ones that you're assigning a bridge to, essentially, that you are creating that connection point from one project to the other. The other thing, too, is that you do need project administrative privileges within both to set up those bridges. So every user on the project isn't going to be able to create those bridges. It's going to be very specific users, so we can kind of dial in exactly what information is going to be shared, who's responsible for sharing it, or creating the automation behind it. So let's go into a quick demo of Bridge. I'll show you how easy it is. So I'm going to jump into a Docs project here, and you'll notice that I'm in Files. If I was in Build, I could also be in Files. You can do this from Cost Management as well inside of their File module. So anywhere within Files, you have the ability to come in, maybe select folders or select specific drawings. So if I wanted to come into my drawings, I can see all of my PDFs here. Now I can come in and maybe select a handful of them if I wanted to, and I can do share. Or if it was an entire folder, let's say I want to take all of the drawings folder, the entire folder here, I can click on the three dots and do share. Or if I'm within any one of these environments, let's say we've got models and we've got multiple folders, I can grab multiple folders, and you'll notice that the share button comes up. When I click share, this has been around for a while. So sharing with project members, anyone with a link that gives them kind of a web page that they can go to visualize the information pretty quickly in a very lightweight viewer, but they're not going to actually be inside the project environment. They're not going to be able to do a lot of the other things like markups, issues, RFIs, et cetera. But then this is the newest one with another project. So as I click that, you'll notice that it says which project, it asks which project we want to go to. And right now I'm in our CTG account, but I am also happen to be a project manager on our AETG account. So this is a completely different account, completely different project. Then I can select the folder structure that I want this to go into. So in this case, I'm grabbing models. Maybe I want to create a models folder. I can go into just project files, and I'll bring a models folder and the subsequent subfolders that I selected over here into this project files environment. And it's as easy as that. That's all you have to do. Now when I click share, it's going to share those out to the other project. There's going to get an email notification, anyone that subscribed. So again, for those that aren't aware, you get this subscribe function for any one of the subfolders and subfolders. So it can be this folder or all subfolders. If you have subscription notifications turned on, you'll also get a notification that documents have been added there. And you'll notice that we've got this bridge file or tool here on the left under Docs, and it shows all of the incoming and outgoing information from our project. So we can see every time something was imported, who imported it, what project it came from. And I can very easily click on this, and it'll take me to the associated project and where these files are. The same is true of outgoing. We can see all the information that is headed out of the system. This is the one that we just did over to that other project. And then when we are setting up Bridge projects, all we have to do is add a new project to Bridge. And what we do then is say which user email address we want to create the bridge with. So if you're an architect and you want to bridge with a GC, you just say, all right, the GC's project manager is the account admin or the project admin for them on their Autodesk Construction Cloud. I'm going to bridge with them, send them an email, say something along the lines of, please bridge with me, connect your project, and that will allow you then to go in and I'll put in Mark's email here. I'll be able to send that invite, then I'll be able to go in and see all of the information associated with the project that he decides to connect. And when he gets the email, he clicks it and asks him which project he wants to connect to this project that I invited him to. So Bridge is really cool. What I'm really, really, really excited about with Bridge is the direction that it's going. Because right now it is docs, right? It's only documents. And it's going to be everything from files. It can be everything from before the field. It's any of the documents that you can share today. But going forward in the plan, and I don't have a timeline on this, don't hold me to any dates or really even ask about them because I don't entirely know. But the intent is to bring this across all of the other functions of the system. So bringing issues from one project account to another project account, RFIs, submittals, markups, all of the things that you do kind of on a daily basis that get recorded in one system, we want to simultaneously replicate in another system. And we have the ability, this is all on a shared basis. If we go to the project admin side, we have the ability once we've...
Like really quickly, sorry to interject here. We do have a question. Can you bridge with other software, Procore, PlanGrid, etc.?
You cannot. So Bridge is only between Autodesk Construction Cloud accounts. It can be used for BIM 360 to the new unified platform that we've been in here today, but it can't be used for other systems. But you're alluding to something that I will jump to here shortly, and we'll go into that. But before I jump out of the system here, I did want to show you Bridge has the ability to have automations. So you can set up if there's files that were moved or sent from one project to another, you can automate that and say, hey, we want to do this every Friday. We want to send these out so that everyone gets the appropriate information. So that automation tool is really neat. And again, look for the rest of the tool to be built out as it relates to other portions of the project. Before I get back to moving information, sharing information between different types of software, I do want to talk about one other function that I found really unique that I really liked was within the markup tool. You have the ability now as you're creating your markups to add links, and they're calling them references. And references have been around for a little bit, so you could link to other sheets for a while. Even RFIs has been around. Forms and submittals are the most recent that have been out for a couple months, where you could link to any of those checklists or submittals, adding a markup to a submittal rather than going into the submittal and then creating a markup. So it just allows the user the flexibility in terms of how they're going to create a markup and tie it to some other piece of information. But now we also additionally have the ability to add assets as a reference. So as I go into my assets, it'll give me the full list. I can search it, I can load more and identify all the different assets from our assets module, come in here, add that asset, and now if I go into that asset, I have a quick, easy way to jump to this drawing and to this markup. So if I'm looking at assets, I'm reviewing that. Maybe there's something that's wrong with something. Maybe it's taking longer, and I want to know why it hasn't progressed through to fully installed, completed, and closed out. I can click on that information, and it'll bring up the view that we're in here. So really great way to tie a lot of different pieces of information to one another. And you'll notice here that it's directly linked here. I can very quickly and easily navigate over to my assets table inside of Autodesk Build. But additionally, I can add other references. So maybe someone else comes in, they see there's a markup on an asset, and they're wondering why it hasn't been installed yet. They can link then to an RFI and say, well, it hasn't been installed because we're still waiting on an open RFI, and we don't have information yet. So you can tie all these different pieces of information in the system together to ultimately get to a solution and get to project completion. So I love the question about tying other tools together, because that just leads me right into another topic. So Bridge, while it can only do things inside of the Autodesk Construction Cloud, it's physically documents right now, but ultimately it will always be within the Construction Cloud. It's a tool built by Autodesk. They want to keep everything kind of in-house, and they just want to make it easy to move information between the different Autodesk accounts. But there is a way to move information out of the system into other tools that aren't under the Autodesk umbrella. We've had Forge APIs for a really long time now. Forge has been around since 2015, so it's now a 7-year-old tool set of open APIs. APIs continue to grow. We just got a new release of the Documents API, so we can gather even more information out of the system. It's really great. We've done a lot of really cool things here at Applied Software through the Forge APIs. The newest system to be leveraged is the Autodesk Construction Cloud Connect. ACC Connect is a system built on the Workato platform. So rather than Forge and APIs and having code development, the intent there is you have these recipes, effectively kind of pre-built packages of code that you can very easily build out a full recipe that incorporates many smaller recipes, ingredients, if you will, and gets you a similar result. And then, as someone appropriately asked about, is 360 Sync. So 360 Sync is a tool that Applied Software has created, and it allows you to integrate the Documents tab, all of the models, sheets, file types, etc., between different project environments and different technologies. So if you're looking to move from BIM 360 or the Autodesk Construction Cloud unified platform to Procore, to Bluebeam, to PlanGrid, to SharePoint, anything that you see here on this screen, you can very easily do it. The user interface was just updated this year. It's really great. It's super, super easy. Like the Bridge tool, you can automate it. But Bridge, what it limits you to is a weekly. So I think really what they're trying to minimize is a lot of synchronization happening regularly and moving data. With 360 Sync, we don't have that problem because it does get installed on a machine rather than being entirely hosted in the cloud. It sits on a server. It sits on one user's machine somewhere. It does a lot of the legwork for us, but that allows us to automate it as frequently as you want. If you wanted it to check between Autodesk Construction Cloud and Procore every hour, you could very easily do that. And it would check it every single hour, and it would make sure that the information is pushed between the systems. You can have it be a two-way map, so it can go from Autodesk to Procore and Procore to Autodesk, vice versa. Really, really easy user interface. You don't have to write recipe. You don't have to write code. All of it is built in. And I'm excited to announce that we are working on some exciting features around RFIs and submittals. Some of those additional tool sets that Bridge is working to build out internally, we're looking to build those out externally. So create a an RFI in Procore and very easily push that over to the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So stay tuned for that. This list as well is our complete list today, but know that because of the way that we built the code, it's somewhat easy. I don't want to say very easy, but it's easier than building out an entire integration from scratch for us to add a new product here. So I know looking at the user list here, we've got some architects on the call. If you're utilizing Newforma, that's something that we've been in talks with them about building out. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to reach out and let us know. But the world is kind of your oyster in terms of what systems you're utilizing. We've looked at a number of different document management systems, tying those in. So we're really eager to continue to add to this list and make 360 Sync kind of a global product that spans a number of different platforms. And then I did want to, as I alluded to, the Workato platform, I did want to show you this slide is kind of a little unruly. There's a lot of logos here, but this is all of the out-of-the-box connections that are ready to go, whether it's through Forge APIs or through ACC Connect. There's a lot of really great companies here, great tools that can already tie into the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So note that, hey, yeah, we're using Zoom. How can we integrate Zoom and better leverage it within our project environment? Oh, you can add a Zoom meeting to your meeting minutes tool within Build. It can be recorded and then stored right within the Build environment. Something like that can just very easily make reviewing information, sharing information more seamless and painless.